The mind quits long before the body. Learn how to keep moving when everything says stop. You think you're done, but you're not. You think you've hit your limit, but that limit is a lie your mind tells to protect your comfort. Your body can take more. Your spirit can endure more. But your mind quits first. That's why this isn't about muscle. It's about mindset. When you feel weak, that's the moment that defines you. The quitters stop. The warriors breathe and keep going. This audiobook isn't motivation. It's a mirror. And when you finish it, you'll never trust the voice that says stop again. Chapter 1. The Lie of Limits. You've been lied to. From the day you were born, you were told where to stop, what to fear, what's too much, what's good enough. But none of that was truth. It was programming. It was protection disguised as wisdom. People who quit early taught you how to quit. People who feared pain taught you how to avoid it. And every time you accepted their version of your limits, you shrank a little more. You weren't born weak. You were trained to stop early. You were conditioned to believe that struggle meant failure. But struggle doesn't mean you're failing. Struggle means you're becoming. Every limit you've ever known, every ceiling, every I can't, every I'm done, is a story you inherited. And here's the truth. You can rewrite it. Because the body doesn't quit first, the mind does. Your legs don't give up, your thoughts do. Your lungs don't shut down, your excuses do. And every time you believe that lie, you trade your potential for comfort. You've been told, listen to your body. But what they really meant was, listen to your fear. The body sends signals, pain, fatigue, resistance. But those aren't commands, they're data. Pain is data, not danger. Pain says you're changing. Pain says you're alive. Pain says you're expanding beyond what you were yesterday. That's not a reason to stop. That's the signal to keep going. You have to retrain your response. Most people feel pain and retreat. The strong feel pain and read it. They ask, what is this teaching me? They learn to translate discomfort into direction. That's the key. When your mind screams stop, you don't negotiate. You breathe, you analyze, you adapt, you keep moving. You're not done. You're not done. You're not done. That phrase has to become your battle cry. Because the moment your mind says enough, your body still has 40% left in the tank. Science proves it, but you don't need science to feel it. You've lived it. Every time you pushed past exhaustion, every time you said just one more, you discovered it yourself. The 40% rule isn't about numbers. It's about truth. It's about realizing that weakness isn't the absence of strength. It's the surrender to comfort. You think you've hit a wall? No, you hit your training partner. That wall is there to test your will. And most people fail the test not because they can't climb, but because they never even try. Here's what separates the strong from the average. The strong keep going when the story says stop. They rewrite the narrative in real time. They use resistance as a ruler to measure how much more is possible. You have a choice. You can believe the lie of limits, or you can challenge it. Every day, every rep, every task that makes you doubt your capacity. That's where strength is built. Not in the comfort zone, not in the predictable, not in the safe. Strength is built in the unknown, in the place where fear lives, in the space where your excuses echo the loudest. When you feel that voice saying, I can't do this, stop. Don't obey it, observe it. Ask, whose voice is this? Because often it isn't yours. It's the voice of your past. It's the echo of every teacher, parent, friend, or critic who told you to play small. They weren't malicious, they were limited. And they passed that limitation to you like an inheritance. But you don't have to accept it. That's the first act of rebellion, rejecting the limits that were handed to you. When you say, I can't, you're repeating someone else's story. When you say, I'll try, you're negotiating with fear. But when you say, I'm not done, you take back control. That's where power begins. Not when you start, but when you refuse to stop. Real warriors don't need comfort. They need clarity. They need the burn that proves they're still alive. They understand that growth is expensive and the price is pain. But that pain is temporary. Regret lasts forever. You have to rewire how you think about pain. Pain isn't punishment. Pain is feedback. Pain is the language of progress. When you lift a weight, your muscles tear so they can rebuild stronger. When you face rejection, your resilience stretches so it can expand. Pain is the process, not the problem. And that's the shift. You stop running from pain. You start respecting it. You start asking for it. Because pain is the proof that you're no longer stagnant.
You can't build endurance if you stop every time it hurts. You can't build courage if you hide every time you fear. You can't build discipline if you quit every time you're tired. You have to break that pattern. You have to look at pain and say, you're my signal, not my stop sign. That's mental toughness. That's mastery. Every day, you're faced with two choices: retreat or reinforce. Retreat and your limits harden. Reinforce and your limits expand. It's not about massive leaps. It's about micro breakthroughs. One more step, one more call, one more rep. That's how limits die. One act of defiance at a time. You have to become obsessed with that moment when your brain says quit. That's your battlefield. That's where your war begins. Because the voice that says stop isn't your enemy. It's your invitation to level up, to see who you really are when comfort is gone. And here's the truth. You'll never know your potential until you stop believing in limits. You can read about strength, you can talk about resilience, but until you live through the breaking point, you'll never understand it. That's the paradox. Your strength is hidden behind your struggle. Every limit broken builds a new identity. Every impossible conquered becomes your new baseline. And that's how you rise. Don't run from that pain. Breathe through it. Smile through it. Because that's the sound of transformation. That's what rebirth feels like. You're not done. You're not done. You're not done. Every time you say that, you weaken the hold of your limits. You remind your mind that it serves you, not the other way around. You take ownership of your edge, and ownership is freedom. You don't need their permission to break your ceiling. You don't need proof before you start. You just need the courage to push one step further than last time. Because every step past fear is a step into power. Every breath beyond comfort is a breath into control. And every time you refuse to quit, you build a version of yourself that doesn't need to be convinced anymore, only commanded. That's what this chapter is about. Killing the lie, killing the comfort, killing the conditioning that says stop here. Because the truth is simple. You were never weak. You were just untested. And now it's time to test yourself. When you feel weak, keep going. When it hurts, keep going. When the world says stop, keep going. You'll be amazed what's left when the excuses are gone.
Chapter 2. The moment you want to quit is the moment you're tested. Every day, you're being tested. Not by the world, not by other people, by yourself. The test doesn't arrive with a warning. It shows up in the middle of the rep, the middle of the project, the middle of the storm. It shows up the moment you start to feel weak. That's the real test, the moment you want to quit. Anyone can start strong. Anyone can feel motivated in the beginning. Beginnings are easy. They're exciting. They feel full of possibility. But the middle, that's where most people die. That's where fatigue whispers. That's where progress slows. That's where your mind starts making deals. Maybe this is enough. Maybe tomorrow will be better. Maybe I should stop before I burn out. That's the voice of weakness disguised as logic. It sounds rational. It sounds protective. But it's the voice that kills greatness. You don't fail when your body gives out. You fail the moment you believe that voice. Because weakness doesn't come from exhaustion, it comes from confusion. The mind confuses discomfort with defeat. You feel pain, and your mind calls it loss. You feel tired, and your mind calls it the end. But pain isn't loss. Tired isn't done. Discomfort isn't defeat. They're signals that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. That's the key. When it hurts, you're finally training. Because everything before the pain was just the warm-up. The test doesn't begin until it hurts. That's when the real work starts. That's when strength begins to form. That's when you separate from everyone who said they do the same thing but didn't have the guts to finish. The second you want to quit, remember, you finally reached the threshold of growth. That's not a wall. That's a doorway. And most people never walk through it. They stand in front of it, blaming the pain, and turn back. They think endurance is about comfort. It's not. It's about conviction. Weakness appears when purpose disappears. When you forget why you started, pain wins. When your why fades, fatigue becomes louder. That's why you have to keep your mission clear. You have to remind yourself daily who you're doing this for. Because if your purpose is shallow, your endurance will be too. You have to decide, are you doing this because it's exciting or because it's essential? Because excitement fades, essentials endure. That's the difference between motivation and mastery. Motivation moves when it feels good. Mastery moves when it hurts. When you hit that point, that moment when everything in you says stop, don't. Don't listen. Don't negotiate. Breathe. Recenter. Remind yourself, this is the moment that makes me. That's not the moment to give up. That's the moment to get better. Because every time you push through that threshold, you build a new baseline. You reprogram your mind to trust your strength more than your excuses. And that's how warriors are built, one decision at a time. You have a choice. Every single time you feel that urge to quit, you have a choice. You can surrender to weakness, or you can strengthen your will. One of them grows you, one of them kills you. You don't need motivation to keep going, you need memory. Remember every time you stopped before and regretted it. Remember the pain of quitting too soon. That pain lasts longer than any muscle ache, any sleepless night, any exhaustion. Quitting hurts more than trying ever could. You think you'll feel relief if you stop, but you won't. You'll feel regret. Regret is the echo of potential left untested. When you feel weak, keep going. When it hurts, keep going. When the results don't show, keep going. That's the rule. Because fatigue is fuel. Fatigue is feedback. Fatigue means you're moving. The people who don't get tired aren't strong, they're stagnant. You don't build endurance in ease. You build it in exhaustion. Think about it. A runner doesn't get faster by stopping when it burns. A boxer doesn't get sharper by quitting after the first punch. A mind doesn't get tougher by retreating at discomfort. They all get stronger the same way, by staying in it.
When it hurts, your instincts tell you to retreat. But that's not the time to retreat. That's the time to reframe. Tell yourself, this is not pain. This is progress.
This is not exhaustion. This is expansion. This is not weakness. This is work. That's how you train your mind to lead instead of follow. Your body will always follow your focus. If your focus is on the pain, you'll find a reason to stop. If your focus is on the purpose, you'll find a reason to keep going. And that's the secret. Focus fuels endurance. Purpose fuels perseverance. Without purpose, your body quits early. Without focus, your progress disappears. So when you're deep in it, when you're tired, doubting, frustrated, remind yourself why you started. Say it out loud if you have to. I'm not done. I started this for a reason. I finish what I begin. Because the test isn't about how strong you are. It's about how long you can hold the line. Discipline isn't built in bursts. It's built in endurance. Endurance of discomfort. Endurance of boredom. Endurance of doing the right thing long after it stopped feeling good. That's the part nobody glamorizes. They show the success. They skip the struggle. But the truth is, the struggle is the story. That's where you earn it. That's where you forge the identity that can't be shaken by noise, failure, or fatigue. You'll never feel ready in those moments. You'll feel tired. You'll feel lost. You'll feel alone. And that's exactly why they matter. Because the moment you want to quit is the moment that tests everything you claim to believe about yourself. You say you're disciplined? Prove it now. You say you're resilient? Prove it now. You say you're different from the rest? Prove it now. That's the beauty of the test. It exposes what's real. No more talking, no more potential, just performance, just truth. When it hurts, you're finally training. When it burns, you're finally growing. When it breaks you, you're finally rebuilding. So stop trying to escape the test. Start respecting it. Start expecting it. Because it's not punishment, it's preparation. Every hard moment is a rehearsal for something bigger. You don't need to love the pain. You need to learn from it. You don't need to crave the struggle. You need to use it. That's how you build resilience, through repetition under pressure. Every time you don't quit, you create evidence that you can't be broken. And evidence builds belief. Belief builds identity. Identity builds discipline. This is how you rewrite your story, not by talking about strength, but by proving it when you're empty. Because that's what defines the strong. Not their start, not their success, but their refusal to stop when it hurt. The moment you want to quit isn't the end. It's the beginning of the real work, the beginning of the real you. So next time you reach that breaking point, smile. Because now you know. That's the signal. That's the test. That's where the transformation begins. When it hurts, you're finally training. Say it again. When it hurts, you're finally training. Now breathe, stand up, and keep going.
Chapter 3. Feelings are liars. You've been taught to worship your feelings, to wait for the right mood, to trust your gut, to follow your heart. But if you live by feelings, you'll die by them. Because feelings lie. They'll tell you you're tired when you're untrained. They'll tell you you're finished when you've barely started. They'll whisper that you deserve rest before you've earned it. And if you listen long enough, they'll convince you that weakness is wisdom. You don't need to feel strong to be strong. That's the truth. Discipline doesn't ask for emotion. It demands action. You act first. You feel later. That's the key. You have to understand how feelings work. They're not logic. They're not truth. They're chemical weather patterns in your brain, temporary storms that change by the hour. If you build your life around them, you'll never stand still long enough to win anything. The weak wait for feelings to align. The strong act while they're misaligned. That's the difference. One lives at the mercy of moods. The other builds momentum. You think motivation is strength, but it's not. Motivation is sugar. It spikes fast, tastes good, and dies quick. Consistency is protein. It's what builds you, slowly, silently, permanently. Stop feeding on sugar. Start feeding on structure. Because that's what separates dreamers from doers. Dreamers chase inspiration. Doers chase repetition.
Motivation fades when reality hits. Discipline rises when reality hits. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel inspired. You don't need to feel like it. You just need to do it. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. That's one of the hardest truths most people never learn. You think waiting will help you. You think one day you'll wake up and the perfect energy will appear, clear mind, perfect timing, total confidence. It won't. That day never comes. You have to move first. You have to create momentum from nothing. That's what warriors do. They act through chaos. They move through emotion. They use motion to stabilize the storm. Here's what most people don't understand. Your feelings are not the enemy, but they're not your leader either. They're signals. They inform you, but they don't decide for you. Fear tells you there's risk. Anger tells you there's injustice. Sadness tells you there's loss. Fine, listen, learn, but don't obey. That's the difference between emotion and discipline. Emotion screams for attention. Discipline whispers direction. The loudest voice isn't always the right one. You have a choice. You can be ruled by emotion, or you can rule it. You can be moved by feelings, or you can move despite them. The people who win, the ones who truly build something lasting, they all share one habit. They act when it's hardest. Not when it's convenient, not when it's comfortable, when it's hardest. You want to change your life? Then stop waiting to feel like it. You'll be waiting forever, because feelings are built for survival, not success. They were designed to keep you safe, not make you strong. Your mind evolved to protect you, not to push you. So when things get uncomfortable, your feelings kick in. They say stop. They say slow down. They say it's too much. They don't care about greatness. They care about comfort. And comfort is the enemy of growth. If you only move when it feels right, you'll never move far. Because greatness rarely feels right. It feels heavy. It feels lonely. It feels like pain. That's why discipline is the cure. Discipline is doing it because it's uncomfortable. Discipline is proving to yourself that your word is stronger than your mood. That's mastery. When you wake up and your mind says, "Not today," that's the day that matters most. That's the day that defines you. Because that's when you teach yourself who's in charge. Your emotions or your execution. Act first. Feel later. Say it again. Act first. Feel later.
Because feelings follow focus. When you focus on the work, the right emotion eventually shows up. But you can't wait for it. You have to lead it. Action builds energy. Movement builds motivation. You think you need to feel good to act, but the truth is, you need to act to feel good. That's how the brain works. It rewards action, not intention. It rewards proof, not promise. Every time you do what you said you'd do, regardless of feeling, you rewire your identity. You stop being someone who's driven by emotion and start being someone who's driven by integrity. That's the real transformation. Not instant motivation, not positive thinking, just consistency. And consistency isn't sexy. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's silent, repetitive, boring, and unbeatable. You want to know why most people fail? Because they chase intensity, not consistency. They sprint when they feel inspired, then collapse when the feeling fades. They start strong on Monday and disappear by Friday. They confuse a burst with a habit. But bursts burn out. Habits build forever. That's the key. Stop chasing the high. Build the habit. Do it when you're tired. Do it when you're frustrated.
Do it when your feelings say no, because that's how you build emotional control, through defiance. Every time you act against emotion, you reclaim a piece of power. Every time you move through resistance, you make discipline louder than doubt. You don't need their permission. You don't even need your own permission. You just need command. Command of your mind, command of your time, command of your behavior. This is how you break the cycle. This is how you stop being a slave to emotion. Because emotions are temporary, but your actions echo forever. Here's how you apply it. When you don't feel like training, train. When you don't feel like writing, write. When you don't feel like showing up, show up. When you feel weak, push harder. Because that's when it counts. That's when it matters. The strongest people in the world aren't emotionless. They're emotionally disciplined. They feel the same doubt, fear, anger, and fatigue that you do. But they don't obey it. They observe it. They acknowledge it. And then they move anyway. That's strength. That's power. That's maturity. Because emotional control isn't about being numb. It's about being steady. It's about being the calm in the storm, not because the storm disappeared, but because you decided it wouldn't control your direction. When everything screams stop, you breathe and go again. When your mind panics, you hold the line. When your feelings beg for ease, you remind them. This isn't about comfort. It's about consistency. You have to learn to separate emotion from execution. Emotion says wait. Execution says now. Emotion says it's too hard. Execution says it's supposed to be. Emotion says stop. Execution says act first, feel later. That's the mantra. Say it until it lives in you. Act first, feel later. You'll never conquer emotion by understanding it, only by outworking it. You'll never control mood swings by analyzing them, only by acting through them. That's how you rewire your identity. Repetition under resistance. Because one day you'll wake up tired, drained, and empty, but you'll still move. And that's when you'll know. You've become unstoppable. Not because you always feel strong, but because you act strong even when you don't. That's the difference between amateurs and professionals. Amateurs chase feelings. Professionals chase results. Amateurs need hype. Professionals need standards. You want to win? Then stop letting your emotions vote on your future. They're not qualified. They don't see the long game. They only see the pain. You're not your feelings. You're your follow-through. That's the measure of who you are. Not how you feel, but what you do despite how you feel. Act first, feel later. That's how you build mental toughness. That's how you create momentum when the world slows down. That's how you become the kind of person who never waits for ready. Because ready isn't coming. Feelings lie. Discipline doesn't. So act, move, execute, and let the emotions catch up later. You've learned that feelings can't be trusted. Only actions can. Now it's time to attack the real comfort trap that kills discipline before it starts. Chapter 4, Comfort is the Real Enemy.
Chapter 4. Comfort is the real enemy. Comfort looks harmless. It feels soft. It feels safe. It feels like rest. But it's a trap. A slow poison that kills potential quietly. Not all at once, but piece by piece, day by day. Every time you choose comfort, you weaken your endurance muscle. Every time you pick ease over effort, you trade strength for softness. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're only delaying your progress. That's the truth no one wants to hear. Comfort destroys potential. You were not built to be comfortable. You were built to grow. And growth requires pressure. Growth demands friction. Growth is earned in pain, not pleasure. You have a choice. Stay safe or get strong, but you can't have both. That's the key. Comfort feels like peace, but it's really decay. Because nothing alive grows without discomfort. Muscles don't grow without tension. Minds don't expand without challenge. Spirits don't evolve without struggle. You already know this. You've seen it in your own life. The moments that shaped you weren't easy. They were hard. They were messy. They hurt. But they made you. Pain grows you. Ease dissolves you. Say it again. Pain grows me. Ease dissolves me. You can't escape that truth. Every time you avoid pain, you avoid progress. Every time you run from discomfort, you run from development. You're not saving yourself from suffering, you're saving yourself from strength. That's why comfort is the real enemy. Because it doesn't look like one. It smiles. It soothes. It tells you you've done enough. It whispers, you deserve a break. But comfort doesn't want your peace, it wants your potential. The world worships comfort. Everything around you is designed to make life easier. Instant food, instant entertainment, instant validation, instant dopamine. But ease doesn't build excellence. Discomfort does. The more comfortable life becomes, the softer people get. The softer you get, the easier you break. That's why so many people collapse under pressure. They never trained for it. They built comfort, not capacity. And then, when life gets hard, and it will, they fall apart, because they never built the muscle to endure difficulty. You have to stop training for comfort and start training for control. Stop chasing what feels good and start chasing what makes you great. The harder the path, the clearer your purpose becomes, because purpose is forged in resistance. That's the difference between the average and the elite. The average avoid pain. The elite pursue it. The average want comfort. The elite want challenge. Because they know pain is data. Discomfort is direction. The harder it gets, the closer they are to who they're meant to be. When you feel pain, don't ask, why me? Ask, what is this building in me? When you face resistance, don't shrink, lean in. Because discomfort doesn't destroy identity, it builds it. That's the paradox. The pain you run from contains the power you seek. Think about every warrior, every leader, every success story you admire. They all have one thing in common. They trained in discomfort. They learned to be calm in chaos. They made peace with pain. Discomfort became their ally. Because comfort kills hunger, and hunger is the engine of greatness. You can't be sharp if you're soft. You can't be disciplined if you're dulled at ease. That's why every day you must deliberately step into discomfort. Don't wait for struggle to find you, go find it. Choose the harder path. Wake up earlier. Take the cold shower. Do the extra rep. Say no to the easy option. Because every act of voluntary discomfort is a declaration of control. It's you saying, I'm in charge. Pain doesn't scare me. Comfort doesn't own me.
That's mental toughness. That's freedom. Because freedom doesn't come from ease, freedom comes from endurance. It comes from knowing you can face the hard and not break. Comfort isn't your friend, it's your cage. It keeps you still when you should move. It keeps you quiet when you should grow. It keeps you safe, but safety is where dreams die. That's the real tragedy. Comfort kills more ambition than failure ever could, because comfort convinces you there's nothing wrong. It convinces you to settle, to stop climbing, to stop chasing, to stop evolving. But here's the truth. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying. Every time you pick the easy route, you tell your brain that effort isn't worth it. Every time you choose rest over resistance, you reinforce weakness. But every time you choose pain, you teach your mind that it's not danger, it's development. That's the shift you need. That's the mindset that separates the unstoppable from the ordinary. Discomfort isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's shaping you for what's coming. It's testing your patience, sharpening your focus, and building your endurance. That's why you can't avoid it. You have to embrace it. You have to invite it. You have to look at pain and say, you work for me. Because once you do, you'll never fear it again. You'll learn to find power inside pressure. You'll learn to breathe inside the burn. You'll learn to see discomfort as growth, not suffering. Pain grows me. Ease dissolves me. That's the mantra. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Because every time you choose the harder path, you carve a stronger identity. You prove to yourself that you can endure, adapt, and evolve. You build trust with yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of discipline. When you stop chasing comfort, you start chasing truth. The truth about what you're capable of. The truth about how strong you really are. The truth about what happens when you stop settling. It's not about seeking pain for its own sake. It's about using it. It's about choosing to suffer on purpose instead of suffering by surprise. Because discomfort will find you either way. The only question is, will it find you ready? You have a choice. Live easy and regret it later, or live disciplined and reap it forever. Ease gives temporary relief. Discomfort gives permanent growth. Pain grows me. Ease dissolves me. That's not just a quote, that's a commandment. Because when you live by it, you become bulletproof. The noise doesn't distract you, the pain doesn't scare you, the comfort doesn't seduce you. You become calm under chaos. You become strong in the storm. You become you, the real you, forged in fire, not cushioned by comfort. So here's your mission. Do one hard thing today. Something small, something you don't want to do. Then do it again tomorrow, and again the next day. Because the hard things compound. They build the version of you that comfort could never create. Pain grows me. Ease dissolves me. That's the code. That's the life. That's the difference. You've learned how to destroy comfort before it destroys you. Now it's time to master what comes next, the war that happens inside your own head. Chapter 5. Discipline over emotion.
Chapter 5. Discipline over emotion. You keep waiting to feel ready, to feel motivated, to feel inspired. You tell yourself you'll start when you feel like it, but that's the lie that keeps you weak. Because feelings are fleeting. Discipline is forever. Emotion talks. Discipline acts. That's the key. You don't rise to the level of your feelings. You fall to the level of your systems. And if your system is built on emotion, you'll crumble every time life gets heavy. Because feelings change with the weather. One day you're unstoppable. The next you can't even move. 1 minute you're ready to conquer the world. The next you're doubting yourself, scrolling, escaping. That's the trap, living by emotion instead of structure. You want to know the truth? The most successful, the strongest, the most disciplined people on earth don't wake up feeling like warriors. They wake up tired, sore, uninspired, and they move anyway. That's what makes them warriors. They don't wait for permission from their mood. They command themselves. They've trained their mind to act even when it screams, "Not today." That's power. That's freedom. Because discipline is control over yourself,
over your day, over your destiny. Emotion is chaos, unpredictable, unstable, easily manipulated. The disciplined build their life like soldiers. The emotional build their life like gamblers, all in on how they feel. You can't live like that and expect consistency, and consistency is the foundation of greatness. Motivation fades, excitement fades, energy fades, but structure endures. When you build systems, a time to wake, a time to train, a time to focus, you stop negotiating with your feelings. That's how you win, because every negotiation with emotion costs you progress. You say, "I'll do it later." Emotion wins. You say, "I'm too tired." Emotion wins. You say, "I'll wait until I feel ready." Emotion wins. And then you wonder why nothing changes. You have to kill that conversation. You have to silence that debate. You have to move regardless of feeling. Do it tired. Do it angry. Do it anyway. That's the mantra. Because the truth is this: the work doesn't care about your emotions. The gym doesn't care if you're tired. The book doesn't care if you're uninspired. Your goals don't care how you feel. They only care if you show up. Emotion wants comfort. Discipline demands commitment. Emotion says, "Not now." Discipline says, "Now or never." That's the difference between amateurs and professionals. Amateurs move when they feel like it. Professionals move because it's required. You don't need to feel good to do good work. You just need to do the work. That's how warriors move. Discipline is doing what must be done, especially when you don't want to. Because the moments you least want to act are the moments that build your strength the most. Anyone can act when it's easy. Only the disciplined act when it's hard. You want to be strong? Then learn to move through emotion, not with it. You want to be consistent? Then stop chasing motivation and start building systems. That's the secret. Systems beat feelings every time. When you have structure, your day doesn't depend on your mood. When you have a schedule, your discipline isn't optional. When you have standards, your emotions don't get a vote. That's how soldiers are made. They don't wait for enthusiasm. They act from identity. They don't say, "I feel like training." They say, "I am a soldier, so I train." That's what you have to become. A person whose actions are not controlled by how they feel, but by who they are. Because disciplined isn't just what you do, it's who you are when no one's watching. Every time you move through fatigue, you're telling your body, "I lead, you follow." Every time you work through frustration, you're telling your emotions, "You don't control me." Every time you act through doubt, you're telling your mind, "I decide what happens here." That's how you reclaim power.
Emotion is noise. Discipline is signal. Emotion reacts. Discipline responds. Emotion is impulse. Discipline is integrity. You have a choice every moment. Obey your feelings or obey your mission. One makes you fragile. The other makes you unstoppable. The mind will always try to talk you out of action. It'll say you need rest, you need clarity, you need comfort. But it's lying. You don't need clarity. You need courage. You don't need motivation. You need momentum. Action comes first. Feeling follows. That's how it works. When you act through fatigue, something strange happens. Your energy comes back. When you move through doubt, your confidence returns. When you do it anyway, you realize you never needed emotion to begin with. Because discipline creates emotion. You don't find motivation, you generate it. Through motion, through momentum, through consistency. That's the key. If you want to build unshakable discipline, build rituals, not reactions. Your morning routine should not depend on how you slept. Your focus should not depend on how you feel. Your standards should not depend on circumstance. Structure protects you from chaos. Routine protects you from emotion. That's why the disciplined win, not because they're stronger, but because they're steadier. They fall, but they don't stay down. They hurt, but they don't stop. They're tired, but they don't quit. Because they've trained their mind to follow a system, not a sensation. Do it tired. Do it angry. Do it anyway. That's not recklessness. That's resolve. That's maturity. That's leadership over self. Every act of discipline is a vote for strength. Every act of emotion is a vote for weakness. Which one are you casting today? You can't lead yourself if you can't command yourself. You can't command yourself if you obey your feelings. So stop waiting for good days. Make every day a training day. When you feel down, train. When you feel distracted, train. When you feel lost, train. Because training isn't about building muscle. It's about building command. And command is built in moments of chaos, not comfort. The strongest people don't feel less. They just act regardless. They know emotion is temporary, but discipline is permanent. They understand that action is stronger than anxiety, and that's how they win. You can have excuses or you can have results, but you can't have both. Every time you give in to emotion, you buy comfort at the price of control, and that price compounds until it becomes your identity. If you want to change your life, stop chasing feeling and start chasing follow-through. That's where your transformation begins. Because emotion doesn't build consistency. Discipline does. Emotion doesn't build legacy. Discipline does. Emotion doesn't build freedom. Discipline does. Discipline is freedom. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from inconsistency. That's the paradox. The more rules you create for yourself, the freer you become. Because when your life has structure, you don't waste time debating. You just execute. Do it tired. Do it angry. Do it anyway. That's the mantra that turns amateurs into professionals. That's the mindset that turns emotion into energy. That's the truth that separates the talkers from the doers. You have a choice every single day. Live by emotion or live by discipline. Wait for the right feeling or build the right system. Let the mood lead you or let your mission lead you. That's how you win the war within. Because emotion fades, discipline stays. Emotion wavers, discipline anchors. So stop waiting for the right feeling. Do it tired, do it angry, do it anyway. And when you do, you'll discover something powerful. Emotion was never your enemy. Your obedience to it was. Now you've learned to lead through emotion. Next, you'll learn to conquer the mental noise that keeps you from hearing your own strength. Chapter 6, Silence is your strategy.
Chapter 6, The Quiet War Within. Every day there's a war, not outside you, inside you. It starts the moment you open your eyes. Before the world even speaks, the noise begins. That voice in your head that says, stay in bed. That whisper that says, you've done enough. That quiet pull toward comfort, distraction, and ease. That's the war within, and most people lose it before their feet even touch the ground. You think the enemy is out there, the critics, the pressure, the competition. But it's not. It's the internal noise that convinces you to slow down, soften up, stay still. It's the voice that says stop. That's the voice you have to kill. Not by shouting back, not by arguing, by ignoring it. Because the voice that says stop gets quieter when you stop listening. That's the key. This isn't a loud war. It's not chaos and explosions. It's quiet, subtle, psychological. It's fought in silence, in the moments no one sees, no one claps for, no one records. The moments when you have to decide who's in charge, your mind or your mission. Every day is a fight between comfort and conviction, between who you are and who you're supposed to be, between emotion and execution, between silence and noise. And the noise will always come first. It will distract you. It will tempt you. It will disguise itself as logic, as reason, as rest. It'll say, "You've done enough today. You deserve to slow down. You're tired. Take it easy." But that's the language of surrender. That's comfort pretending to be care. That's weakness wearing the mask of reason. You have a choice: to listen to that voice or to silence it. Silence doesn't mean emptiness. Silence means command, because the one who can silence the noise controls the war. Most people think power is loud, speeches, motivation, adrenaline. But the real power is quiet. It's calm. It's the ability to sit in the storm and still move forward. Stillness isn't weakness. The calmest soldier always wins the battle within. That's what separates the disciplined from the distracted. The disciplined create stillness on command. They know how to silence the chaos inside so they can focus on the mission ahead. They don't need hype. They don't need validation. They need clarity. Because clarity comes from quiet, and quiet comes from control. The louder your mind becomes, the weaker your command is. The quieter it gets, the sharper you become. Silence the noise. Command the body. That's the mantra. When your mind starts to spiral, stop reacting. When your emotions start shouting, stop answering. When your doubts start rising, stop feeding them. You can't fight noise with noise. You defeat it with stillness. Because stillness is focus, and focus is power. The greatest warriors in history understood this. They weren't frantic. They weren't emotional. They were composed, calm in chaos. Because they knew panic kills clarity. You can't think when you're reacting. You can't lead when you're loud. You can't grow when you're restless. The quiet mind commands. The loud mind obeys. That's the truth. Silence the noise. Command the body. The war within is not about strength. It's about control. It's about knowing when to move, when to wait, when to speak, when to stay silent. It's about mastery over impulse, over fear, over distraction. When you master silence, you master yourself. So how do you do it? You train it like a muscle. You build stillness through repetition. You create quiet through ritual. Start with 5 minutes a day. No music, no phone, no noise. Just you, your breath, and your thoughts. You'll realize how loud your mind really is. But the longer you sit with it, the quieter it gets. That's when the fog lifts. That's when focus sharpens. That's when you find the space to choose your next move with precision, not emotion. You don't win the war by fighting every thought. You win by refusing to let thoughts dictate your behavior. You stop reacting to the noise and you start commanding your actions. Because the truth is, your body will obey whoever's louder, your discipline or your distraction. And if your distraction wins the morning, your discipline will lose the day.
So silence the noise. Command the body. That means when you don't feel like training, train. When you don't feel like focusing, focus. When your mind says stop, you whisper back, watch me. That's how you flip control. That's how you lead yourself. Stillness is your weapon. It's what keeps you stable when the world tries to shake you. It's what gives you power when everyone else panics. It's what allows you to stay grounded when emotion tries to take the wheel. You think strength looks like speed and noise? It doesn't. It looks like stillness and precision. It looks like a man who moves with intention while others chase impulse. You don't need to scream to show power. You don't need to react to prove control. You just need to remain calm. Calm enough to execute. That's why silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Noise makes you emotional. Silence makes you efficient. Noise reacts. Silence responds. Noise panics. Silence plans. You have to build a system around silence. Schedule it. Protect it. Practice it. That's how you build unshakable focus. When you wake up, no phone for the first 30 minutes. No noise, no scroll, no chaos. Start the day with silence. Command your body before the world commands your mind. Throughout the day, pause. When you feel pressure rising, stop. Breathe. Return to silence. Because silence gives you your edge back. When you learn to control the quiet, you become untouchable. The outside world stops dictating your state. You decide how you feel. You decide how you move. You decide how you win. Silence isn't just peace. It's precision. It's power. It's control. That's the truth. The strongest mind isn't the one that never feels chaos. It's the one that can stay calm in it. When everything around you moves faster, slow down. When everyone reacts, stay composed. When everyone talks, listen. That's how you win the quiet war. Because the war within isn't won through speed or strength, it's won through stillness, presence, and control. Silence the noise. Command the body. Say it again until it becomes instinct. Silence the noise. Command the body. Because when the mind is quiet, the mission becomes clear. When the emotions fade, execution begins. And when the noise dies, your true self emerges. Focused, fearless, free. That's the real victory. You've learned to command the chaos within. Now it's time to use that calm to face the outside world. The distractions, the validation traps, the constant noise of approval. You've mastered silence. Now let's master separation. Chapter 7. Detach from the need to be seen.
Chapter 7. Pressure builds power. Pressure. That's the word most people run from. They hear it and immediately think stress, pain, struggle. But you need to rewire how you see it. Pressure isn't punishment, it's privilege. Because pressure is proof you're being tested. And you don't test what's weak, you test what has potential. That's the key. You can't build strength without resistance. You can't build muscle without tension. You can't build power without pressure. The weight that hurts you now hardens you later. Everyone wants to be strong, but no one wants to lift heavy. Everyone wants to grow, but no one wants to face resistance. Everyone wants confidence, but no one wants to earn it through struggle. You don't get strong from success. You get strong from survival. That's the truth. Pressure doesn't break you, it forges you.
Every challenge you faced, every time you thought you couldn't take another step, every time you were crushed, exhausted, overwhelmed, those were the reps that built your character. Those were the weights that shaped your mind. Pressure is the gym for your spirit. The weak avoid it. The strong invite it. Because the strong know that pressure is the process. You don't grow when it's easy. You grow when it's hard. That's why it hurts, because you're expanding. Pressure isn't there to destroy you. It's there to define you. And you have a choice. You can let it crush you, or you can let it carve you. You can collapse under it, or you can rise through it. That's the difference between ordinary and unbreakable. Pressure doesn't break me, it forges me. Say it again. Say it until your bones believe it. Pressure doesn't break me, it forges me. Think about how a diamond is made. Coal under pressure. Years of weight, years of heat. No shortcuts, no comfort, no applause. Just pressure. That's how something ordinary becomes extraordinary. That's you. That's your life. That's your evolution. Every pressure in your life is shaping you into someone stronger, if you let it. You can complain about the weight, or you can lift it. You can pray for it to stop, or you can learn to breathe under it. Because pressure isn't the enemy. Your reaction to it is. Most people waste pressure. They waste pain. They feel it, they panic, they run. But the disciplined, they lean in. They say, good, this means I'm in the right place, because growth always hides in discomfort. Pressure builds focus. It forces you to prioritize. It strips away the unnecessary and exposes what's essential. When the pressure rises, you don't have time for distractions. You stop overthinking, you stop doubting, you start acting. That's the gift of pressure. Clarity. You don't know who you really are until life gets heavy, until things fall apart, until everything in you screams, quit, and you don't. That's the moment you meet your real self. You see, when things are easy, everyone looks disciplined, everyone looks calm, everyone looks confident, but when pressure hits, the truth comes out, because pressure doesn't create character, it reveals it. It shows you what's real and what's fake. It shows you what's solid and what's soft. You can't fake discipline under pressure. You can't fake composure when the fire's on. Pressure exposes what you've built or what you've avoided. So stop running from it. Run toward it. The harder it gets, the closer you are to greatness. That's the paradox. The weight you hate is the weight you need. The obstacle you fear is the opportunity you've been avoiding. The pressure you resist is the process you require. Pressure doesn't break me, it forges me.
Every warrior knows this. Every athlete knows this. Every leader knows this. They don't avoid pressure, they prepare for it. They don't wish it away, they welcome it. Because they understand, pressure is feedback. It's life saying, you're in the arena. You asked for growth. You asked for purpose. You asked for strength. And this is how it's given. Pressure isn't a signal to stop. It's a sign you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So don't say, why me? Say, try me. That's the mindset that separates the strong from the soft. The strong see pressure as proof of progress. The soft see it as punishment. When you feel the weight, remember, it's not against you. It's for you. It's sculpting you. It's preparing you. It's teaching you to stay composed when everyone else cracks. That's what makes warriors unshakable.
Because life will never get easier. You just get stronger. And that strength comes from repetition, from staying under the weight until it no longer scares you. That's how confidence is built, not from comfort, but from control, from the ability to breathe under pressure instead of breaking under it. When you learn to do that, nothing can stop you. Pressure at work, pressure in relationships, pressure in your goals. It all feels the same, heavy. But you can handle heavy. You've handled worse. You've survived every version of I can't, and you're still here. You're stronger than you think. You just forget until pressure reminds you. Pressure doesn't break me, it forges me. Say it again. Pressure doesn't break me, it forges me. That's your reminder. That's your mantra. That's your truth. Every rep, every risk, every responsibility, they're all pressure points. And each one builds power if you stay under the weight long enough. You've learned how to handle the internal noise. Now it's time to master the external fire. Because when pressure becomes your ally, nothing outside can shake you. You've built strength under tension. Now, let's learn how to turn that strength into unstoppable motion. Chapter 8, Motion is Medicine.
Chapter 8. Fail forward, never stop. Failure. It's the word that scares most people into silence. It's the wall that stops most before they even begin. But here's the truth. Failure isn't falling. Failure is staying down. That's the key. You don't lose when you fall. You lose when you stop moving. You lose when you decide that the fall defines you instead of refines you. Every setback, every rejection, every no is not a dead end. It's stamina training for the mind. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. Because strength doesn't grow in perfection. It grows in pressure. And pressure doesn't exist without failure. You have a choice. Run from it or rise through it. Hide from it or harness it. Quit or continue. That's the difference between the weak and the strong. The weak see failure as the finish line. The strong see it as the starting point. I fall forward, I fail forward, I move forward. Say it again. I fall forward, I fail forward, I move forward. That's not just a mantra. That's survival. That's how warriors grow. Every failure carries a lesson, but only if you're still standing long enough to learn it. Most people never get there. They fail once and decide the pain isn't worth it. They mistake discomfort for defeat. They walk away before the breakthrough. But you're different. You know pain is feedback. You know mistakes are mirrors. You know progress hides in persistence. That's the truth. No progress is wasted if you don't quit. Every rep counts, even the ugly ones. Every attempt matters, even the ones that collapse. Every fall teaches you balance. Every bruise builds callus. The body adapts through repetition. The mind evolves through resilience. You fall, you learn. You fail, you grow. You move forward, you win. That's the cycle. The weak try to skip it. The strong embrace it. Because every failure is data. Every loss is information. Every setback is feedback. Failure is the most honest teacher you'll ever have, if you're brave enough to listen. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't lie to you. It tells you exactly where you're weak and demands you fix it. That's what makes it sacred. Failure humbles you, refines you, and strengthens you. But only if you keep moving. Most people spend their lives protecting their ego from failure. They fear embarrassment. They fear being judged. They fear being seen trying and not winning. But here's the truth. The ones who never fail are the ones who never fight. You can't win without risk. You can't evolve without error. You can't lead without loss. Failure is the initiation fee for mastery.
You can't learn how to lift without dropping the weight. You can't learn how to lead without making mistakes. You can't learn how to live without falling. Hard. But every time you fall and get back up, you earn something that can't be bought. Grit. You can't fake grit. You can't buy resilience. You can't download perseverance. You build it one fall at a time. That's why you can't avoid failure. You need it. You need it to strip away the illusion of control. You need it to expose what still needs work. You need it to remind you that your progress is real. You have to stop seeing failure as proof you're not enough. Failure is proof you're trying. Failure is evidence of effort. Failure is progress in disguise. The goal is not to avoid failure. The goal is to recover faster. The warrior falls and rises in the same motion. No pause, no pity, no delay. That's the discipline. Because success doesn't come from never falling. It comes from falling and not hesitating. It comes from building such strong reflexes that when you hit the ground, you bounce. That's resilience, the speed between failure and action.
You have to train that speed every day. When you miss a target, move again. When you lose momentum, rebuild it. When you feel defeated, act anyway. Movement cures failure. Stagnation feeds it. That's the rule. When you stop, failure freezes into regret. When you move, failure transforms into growth. The difference is motion. That's why you never stop. You never give failure time to root in your mind. You never give doubt the silence it needs to grow. Action is your antidote. You don't need to think your way through failure. You need to move your way through it. That's what the disciplined do. They don't spiral into self-pity. They analyze, adjust, and advance. That's how you stay dangerous. That's how you turn failure into fuel. I fall forward. I fail forward. I move forward. Say it again. Louder. I fall forward. I fail forward. I move forward. Because forward motion is momentum, and momentum is life. You can't control outcomes, but you can control movement. You can't guarantee success, but you can guarantee effort. And effort compounds. Every rep, every attempt, every restart. That's why no progress is wasted. Even your worst day is building a foundation for your best one, if you keep going. Think about it. Every great success story was built on failure. Athletes miss thousands of shots before mastery. Entrepreneurs fail at 10 ideas before one takes off. Soldiers lose battles before they learn to win wars. That's the pattern. The difference is that they kept showing up. That's the key. They stopped worshiping perfection and started mastering persistence. Because perfection is fragile. Persistence is unstoppable. The world doesn't reward perfect. It rewards relentless. That's why failure doesn't scare the strong. Comfort does. Because comfort kills growth. But failure builds greatness. You don't need to avoid failure. You need to fall better. You don't need to fear mistakes. You need to learn faster. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be persistent. That's how mastery is made. Failure doesn't define you. Your reaction to it does. That's the test. That's the war within. You have to decide. Will you use failure as a mirror or a wall? Will you learn or will you quit? Because failure is just feedback. It's not a verdict. It's not the end. It's the beginning of your next version. You don't need to avoid failure. You need to make it part of your process. You don't need to pretend it doesn't hurt. You need to turn that hurt into hunger. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to move anyway. I fall forward. I fail forward. I move forward. That's the code. That's the mindset. That's the standard. Every failure you've had, it wasn't wasted. It was weight. It was training. It was pressure preparing you for the next level. Because life will test you again. And when it does, you'll remember. Failure doesn't mean stop. Failure means step. Step forward. Step harder. Step again. That's how you win. That's how you grow. That's how you lead. You've learned to endure pressure.
Now, you've learned to use failure as fuel. Next, you'll learn how to turn that motion into mastery, how to sustain power when the world slows down.
Chapter 9. The Power of One More. You think you're done. You think you've given everything. You think there's nothing left in the tank. But that's the lie that keeps you average, because you always have one more. That's the key. One more rep, one more step, one more try. That's what separates the ordinary from the elite. Not talent, not luck, not opportunity. But difference is simple. The best keep going when everyone else stops. That's the secret. That's the standard. That's the mindset that builds greatness. You have a choice every day: stop at comfort or push to capacity. Most people stop when it hurts. Champions keep going because it hurts. One more, always one more. Say it again. One more, always one more. Every time you think you're finished, you're not. You're only refining. You're only discovering the layer beneath the limit. Because limits aren't real, they're thresholds. You don't break through them once. You push through them over and over until they move. That's how greatness is built. One more push beyond what you thought possible. The last rep in the gym, the final page of the book, the extra call, the extra mile, the extra hour. That's where transformation lives, in the one more that most people skip. You don't need more talent. You need more tolerance for fatigue. You don't need more inspiration. You need more repetition. You don't need motivation. You need momentum. The average do what's required. The great do what's beyond required. The average stop when they're tired. The great stop when they're done, and even then, they do one more. That's the rule. That's the standard. That's the discipline. Because the truth is this: everything meaningful in life happens just past the point of comfort. One more rep past exhaustion. One more moment past doubt. One more day past the edge of quitting. The weak give up there. The strong are born there. You have to train your mind to crave that zone. The zone where everything screams stop, but you whisper again. That whisper, that's power. That's mastery. That's how warriors are built. You don't need anyone's permission to keep going. You just need the courage to stay when others leave. Because it's not about feeling ready. It's about refusing to stop. One more. Always one more. You have to make that your identity. Not a choice, a command. Every rep, every task, every day, one more. When your body says no, your mind says yes. When your energy fades, your discipline takes over. When everything hurts, you smile, because you know pain is proof you're still growing. You think one rep doesn't matter? Ask the man who stopped one rep short of success. Ask the athlete who quit before the final lap. Ask the creator who gave up before the breakthrough. It always matters, because greatness hides behind one more. That's where the difference is made. Not in the hours when it's easy, but in the seconds when it's not. Everyone trains when they feel strong. Everyone works when it's fun. Everyone pushes when it's new. But few, very few have the discipline to push when it's heavy, when it's boring, when it's painful. Those are the few who rise above the rest. Because one more rep isn't about the body. It's about the brain. It's a declaration. It says, I'm not finished until I decide I'm finished. It says, I control the pace, not my feelings. It says, I'm stronger than the voice that says stop. You have to earn that right every day. One more, always one more. That's how you train your identity. That's how you hardwire persistence. That's how you separate emotion from execution. It's not about motivation. It's about repetition. Because repetition turns desire into discipline.
That's the real transformation. Most people think success comes from big decisions. It doesn't. It comes from small repetitions. Done daily, done consistently, done past comfort. One more. Always one more. You want a stronger body? One more set. You want a sharper mind? One more page. You want a better life? One more uncomfortable decision every day. Every extra act compounds. Every one more builds a foundation that no one sees until it's undeniable. That's the compound effect of discipline. Quiet, invisible, unstoppable. No one claps for one more. No one sees it. No one thanks you for it. But that's the point. You do it anyway, because you don't do it for applause. You do it for progress. The world sees the result. You live the repetition. You have to fall in love with the one more. The repetition that no one notices, the effort that no one celebrates, the grind that no one values. Because the truth is, most people never find out what they're capable of. They quit right before they discover it. They stop one rep too soon, one day too early, one decision too safe. You can't make that mistake. Not anymore. You don't need permission. You don't need motivation. You need one more. That's the rule. That's the code. That's the identity of the disciplined. Every time you push through fatigue, you build trust with yourself. Every time you do one more, you prove to your mind that you're in charge. And that trust becomes unbreakable. You stop questioning, you stop negotiating, you just execute. That's how self-belief is built, not through affirmations, but through action. Not through feeling ready, but through showing up one more time. One more. Always one more. Every one more is a message. It tells the universe you're serious. It tells your body to adapt. It tells your mind to stay sharp. That's how growth compounds. Because discipline is not intensity, it's endurance. It's the ability to stay consistent after motivation dies. It's the decision to keep building when everyone else stops. And that decision, the one more decision, is where greatness hides. You're not done when it hurts. You're done when you've grown. And growth doesn't happen on the first rep. It happens on the last. The one that burns. The one that hurts. The one that feels impossible. That's the one that changes you. One more. Always one more. So tomorrow, when your alarm goes off and your mind says, not today, whisper back, one more. When you're training and you want to drop the weight, one more. When your goal feels too far away, one more. Because you're not chasing comfort anymore, you're chasing mastery. And mastery isn't built in minutes. It's built in moments. Moments of choice, moments of pain, and moments of one more. You have a choice every day. Stop when it's enough, or go when it's hard. The world remembers those who choose the second option. One more. Always one more. That's the command. That's the code. That's the mindset that turns average into elite. You've learned to fail forward. Now it's time to push beyond fatigue, to keep building even when you think you've hit your limit. Because the final chapter isn't about doing the work. It's about becoming the work. Chapter 10. Become the standard.
Chapter 10. Keep going, even when no one sees you. There's a moment in every journey when the noise stops, when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when no one's checking in to see how you're doing. That's the moment most people quit. Because it's easy to keep going when the crowd is watching. It's easy when there's applause, approval, attention. But when it's quiet, when no one sees you, when the work goes unnoticed, that's when you find out who you really are.
The strongest people don't need witnesses. The real work is done in silence. Unseen, unpraised, uncelebrated. That's the key. You want to build something real? Then learn to keep going when no one sees you, because that's where legacy is built, in the dark. Not in the spotlight, not in the posts, not in the praise. Your legacy isn't built in applause. It's built in the moments no one will ever know about. The mornings you got up before the sun. The nights you stayed late when no one cared. The battles you fought with yourself and won quietly. That's what defines you. That's what builds you. That's what makes you unstoppable. Invisible now, unstoppable later. Say it again. Invisible now, unstoppable later. You have to learn to love that silence, because it's in that silence that mastery grows. The world doesn't reward preparation, it rewards performance. But what they don't understand is that performance is built in the unseen hours. The hours no one tracks, the hours no one thanks you for, the hours you spend alone with your discipline, your doubt, and your grind. That's where greatness lives. Everyone wants the result. Few are willing to live through the repetition, because repetition is lonely. Repetition is quiet. Repetition is invisible. But that's where your future is forged. You don't need their validation. You don't need their permission. You just need consistency when the lights are off. That's how warriors are made. The crowd sees the victory. The disciplined see the process. The weak crave recognition. The strong crave improvement. That's the difference. You have to become the kind of person who doesn't flinch at invisibility, who doesn't need an audience to stay accountable, who doesn't quit just because the progress isn't public. You keep going because it's yours. You keep going because the standard demands it. You keep going because you made a promise to yourself, and self-respect doesn't need applause. Invisible now, unstoppable later. That's the mantra. When no one texts you, when no one claps, when no one says, "Good job," keep moving, keep building, keep showing up. Because the truth is, no one's supposed to see you yet. The roots grow before the tree does, and roots grow underground, in silence, in darkness, away from attention. That's how strength is built, quietly. That's how foundations are formed, patiently. Everyone wants to shine. No one wants to dig. But the digging, the quiet, unseen, unappreciated work is what creates everything worth seeing. So stop craving the spotlight. It's not your time to be seen. It's your time to be shaped. You have a choice. Perform for attention or prepare for greatness. One fades. The other lasts forever. That's the key. Every great champion went invisible first. Every soldier trained in silence before the mission. Every legend worked unseen before they were unstoppable. The world saw the medals. They never saw the mornings. The world saw the highlight reel. They never saw the grind. Invisible now, unstoppable later. You need to build a mindset that thrives in obscurity. Because obscurity is the filter that separates the fakes from the faithful. The ones who were pretending from the ones who were preparing. The world will forget your work until it can't ignore it. That's how it should be. Your job is not to be noticed.
Your job is to be undeniable. And you become undeniable through consistency, not visibility. That's why you have to show up when no one's watching. That's why you have to train when no one's tracking. That's why you have to execute when no one's expecting. Because discipline isn't about display. It's about direction. The quiet hours matter most, because those hours test your integrity. Are you disciplined because you're driven, or just because you're seen? You can't fake discipline in the dark. The mirror knows. The results know. You know. And when you can look at yourself and say, I did it anyway, that's when you win. Invisible now, unstoppable later. It's not about being noticed. It's about being prepared.
Because when the moment finally comes, you won't need to rise to the occasion. You'll fall to your level of training. The training you did when no one was watching. That's why you can't stop. That's why you can't slow down. That's why you can't seek recognition. Recognition will come, but only when it's earned. And it's earned in the silence, in the reps you do alone, in the promises you keep to yourself, in the choices no one will ever see, but you. That's where legacy begins. You want to be great? Then get comfortable being unseen. You want to be respected? Then work like no one's watching. Because most of the time, no one is. That's not a punishment. That's power. The silence means you're free. Free from opinions. Free from noise. Free to focus on the only thing that matters. The mission. You don't need the crowd. You don't need the comments. You don't need the likes. You need momentum. You need consistency. You need silence. Because silence builds certainty, and certainty builds strength. Invisible now, unstoppable later. Keep saying it until it lives in you. Invisible now, unstoppable later. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to keep proving to yourself that you can show up again and again without praise, without spotlight, without recognition. Because that's how legends are born, not in front of the world, but behind closed doors. Not through attention, but through repetition. Not through validation, but through vision. You're building something that can't be seen yet. But one day, it'll be undeniable. Because everything you're doing now, all the invisible work, all the unseen effort, it's stacking, compounding, multiplying. And when it's time, it'll explode into reality, and everyone will call it sudden. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't sudden. It was silent. Invisible now, unstoppable later. That's the warrior's code. That's the artist's process. That's the foundation of mastery. So when the world goes quiet, smile. Because the silence is your sanctuary. It's your training ground. It's your proof that you're still in the fight. You've learned to endure. You've learned to discipline. You've learned to persist unseen. Now it's time to live it. To keep going when no one sees you. To keep building when no one believes yet. To keep fighting until the silence becomes your strength. Because one day, the world will see, and they'll call you unstoppable. And you'll just smile. Because you'll know. You were already unstoppable, long before they noticed. Invisible now, unstoppable later. You've conquered comfort. You've mastered discipline. You've learned to move unseen. And this is where your journey begins, not where it ends. Because mastery has no finish line, only one direction, forward. So keep going, quietly, relentlessly, unseen, until you become undeniable. This is your war within. And now, you've won it. You made it here. Tired, maybe broken, but still breathing. And that means you won. Because the real victory isn't in strength. It's in staying. Weakness will whisper again. Doubt will come back. Comfort will knock at your door every morning. But now you know the truth. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to move. You don't need motivation. You need momentum. Every day, the battle begins again between the part of you that wants comfort and the part of you that wants greatness. And from this moment forward, you know which side you fight for. So tomorrow when you wake up and your mind says stop, smile, because that's your signal to start. Keep going when it hurts. Keep going when it's quiet. Keep going when no one claps. That's how you win. That's how you build a mind that can't be broken. Now go and prove you're not done.